On this episode of Ask Christian Counseling Associates, join us for a conversation with Terry DeHamer, Clinical Supervisor for CCA's Ohio Regions, and Alex Hoffman, Intake Supervisor for CCA and Vice President of the Foundation for Christian Counseling. Together, they share powerful reflections from their recent pilgrimage experience. Terry, first-time guest on the podcast. It's great to have you. And Alex, welcome back.
Thank you.
And 2 times in a row.
Yeah, can't get enough. I'm back.
So, Terry, we have a tradition. Just it's your first time on the podcast. Can you tell the folks, what your role here is at CCA, and anything else you'd like to do in an introduction, and I'll fill in anything that you miss.
Okay, so 7 years ago, I closed a private practice and joined Christian Counseling Associates. And since then, we have grown extensively in Ohio. So I'm now the clinical supervisor for Ohio. We have about 15 offices, about 15 counselors, but that's growing rather quickly. And I oversee all of the sites in Ohio, as well as counsel people. I see kids as young as 5. I see people as old as 80. And my love is just to be able to see all different people really grow and work through their issues and point them to God as we do that.
That's great. Terry, you do it all, and that's why you're one of the leaders at CCA. You manage all of our Ohio divisions right now, and you're really making a great impact there. And that is through your leadership that happens, and your teams that are doing a great job. And I love the story. You were in private practice, and I know there's counselors who are listening to us, even now, who they thought that was the dream, but you really were able to step away from that and have a bigger impact with us, and that's what we do together. This is bigger than any one person, and that happens on the road of ministry and and coming together to have an impact like we do in Ohio. So
yeah, absolutely.
But besides that, you are also like a cyclist.
I am.
In an extreme way, and really step forward to come on this pilgrimage with us.
Yes.
Because the pilgrimage, we like to say, hey, you're just going for a walk.
Yeah.
But plenty of people would not be prepared, and
Yes.
and so you were, you're one of the pioneers. This is the second year that we have done that, and like you said, clinically, you're like A to Z, which is really our model. We want to be expert in everything.
Yes.
Because that's how people come to us. We have to be prepared for children to mature adults, and everything in between, every classification of problem. So this is a generalist practice because that's how you meet the needs of the people the best. Now, there's all things that we super specialize in.
Sure.
But and I'd say that one of the things I really admire, is your work with children. So that's an example. But really, I know that I could send you anybody, and you're going to take that on with the team that you have, and it's going to be great. So,
yeah, it's fun, and I think when you can see a variety of different people, it really keeps you fresh in this field. If you're just seeing couples all day long or people with depression all day long, I think you're going to burn out pretty quickly.
Yeah. It's a great honor to work with all the people that we do. And part of that is just every day is different as you get to know people and the challenges that they face. We're honored to walk alongside them in that. So you're a great model in that, a great leader. Thanks for being here today to talk about the Camino. And Alex, no introduction needed, but again, you're intake supervisor with CCA and Vice President of the Foundation.
Yes.
And longtime supporter of the podcast. You were a production person before being a guest.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
But also on the on the Camino.
Yes. Yep.
This is your second time through.
Second time on the El Camino. Yep.
Yeah. So that's what we wanted to talk about today, and wanted to just get your reflections on how things went. And maybe we could remember, I was sort of joking around that it seems like so many things have happened since last time we were together at the Camino that I've forgotten all about it.
It's temporary amnesia from that event.
So you can bring that back to me. But just some people might ask, why should I be going on a walk in Spain? I could do that here. Walk down my street. What's the pilgrimage all about? And I would just throw out this definition and see if I can get you to share some thoughts about it. A Christian pilgrimage is a sacred journey undertaken with the intention of deepening one's relationship with God. It involves leaving the routines of daily life to travel physically and spiritually toward a place of experience of spiritual significance. So what do you think about that? How does that happen? Is that an accurate definition? And how does that happen on the Camino in Spain?
You want to go ahead, Terry? You
Sure.
can take it away.
I believe it does, because we started every day with devotion and something to be really pondering and praying about. And I know I did, and I prayed about a lot of things. Plus, we were doing this during the time Charlie Kirk was assassinated, as well as 9/11.
Yeah.
So we had some things to really think about as we walked. And I think it's good to be in a different country outside of your comfort zone. We stayed in some interesting inns. They weren't always ideal. But that's part of our Christian walk. We aren't supposed to be comfortable in our Christian walk.
Yeah. Yes, and one of the things, there's a whole bunch of different ways you can do the pilgrimage. Mm-hmm. So we met people on the way that they take a backpack and a huge backpack, and they're walking from wherever, and they stay in these hostels.
Correct.
The hostels are like bunk bed places that you can stay for a very affordable rate. I don't know what it was, but it's also very basic. You're sleeping in a room maybe with 4 other people, or sometimes 15 other people, and all there is a bunk bed and a shower.
Right.
Yeah.
Then there's the mid-range. What we did, we came with suitcases, and every morning a van would pick up our suitcases and take them to the next place that we were going, however far away, and we would stay the night in a hotel that was chosen for us. We had no idea what this place was, but we just trusted the service to do that for us, and they're nice. They were heated or cooled, and had breakfast and definitely a shower. Yeah, but sometimes they were more basic than others.
Yeah.
We didn't always have air conditioning.
No, yeah. So some of that was
sometimes some problems with the hotel, or So there was some mishaps along the way, and then I'm sure that there's like a high end. I've seen people who, when they walk into town, a van picks them up, takes them to the hotel, and then takes them back. I'd say that's the more luxurious. We were like the middle range of experience.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
And I think for me on that trip is like I'm reflecting on you're going there, and then they built that cathedral, the Cathedral of St. James, and was it like 500,000 people make that journey every year just to go on that trip, and you reflect on like how you're a part of this this bigger. The bigger story of Christianity, like in the world, this bigger story of church over history. It's not just like what we have in the U.S. now, like that people sacrificed to build that cathedral in Santiago, and people. It took 150 years to build, and the people started on that project, and they knew that they weren't going to live to see the finished product of that, and it's there, and now people worship in that church for have done so for like 1,000 years. People make that trip every year. They reconnect with their faith, and those people that built that, were a part of that bigger thing. And that was with me, like reflecting on like how am I going to be a part of this bigger story of Christianity? And
definitely. One of the formative experiences, or the main formative experiences of a pilgrimage, is it puts you in touch with something bigger than yourself. Mm-hmm. And there's so many temptations just to remain focused on what's immediately happening in front of you, to stay busy. And so this is like a different sphere of our faith. It's what's happening in the Christian world at a larger scale. And so you have this occurrence that happened over 1,000 years ago. People were called to the remains of St. James. This is the legend. And these are relics, his remains, one of the disciples. And it was traditional, at that point, whenever you had a significant occurrence, you'd build a church around it.
Right.
So when you go to the Holy Land, where they believe that Jesus was buried, that's the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, and it's just huge. They built a monument to God to glorify Him and what had been done. And so that's what they have done in Spain, in Santiago, and that's the Compostela, the Cathedral of St. James.
Yeah.
And his remains are under the altar. Mm-hmm. And in the Middle Ages, this was built, and it took more than 100 years to build that. And so it took more than one lifetime, and definitely more than one person. And you're standing there contemplating, how the heck was this even done? And you contemplate what Christians do together nowadays, like our mission at CCA, and like what we're being called to do here, or our mission at Charter Oak, mm-hmm. Or our group of Christians, and you're contemplating, wow, what are we being called to do, and could we do something like this? Mm-hmm. One of my favorite things is in the courtyard of the Compostela, just a huge place. There's people who lay on their backs mm-hmm. in the middle of the courtyard on the stone ground, looking up, because it's one of the only ways that you can see the whole thing at once. That's how big it is. Yep. It's literally breathtaking the first time that you see it mm-hmm. In person. So it was a huge undertaking, and followers of Jesus Christ felt compelled to do that. They had a deep sense of call to be a part of that, and it's hard to contemplate how many people sacrificed in their lives to build that thing. Right. Yeah. So that is a powerful thing. Mm-hmm. That you're not going to get in Greensburg or wherever Steubenville, Ohio, and it's something you journey to, and so that's part of it.
Yeah, and I think a lot, like especially like in America, we have this very like individualized sense of our faith. We think about like it's me and God, and that's kind of it. But there's this like when you go there, you kind of see this larger history of like of the church and what God is doing through that, and it kind of gives you that to think about, like being a part of that bigger thing, and what the church has built to make Christianity flourish and to have people to spread the gospel. Things were built to do that. They built that cathedral, and now even if people go wherever they're at in their faith walk, if people just go because they think it's a great challenge and they're gonna walk all those miles, they're still going and seeing going to that service and hearing the gospel and participating in that, and seeing the remains of St. James and learning about that. So now that has stood for thousands of years, and thinking about like work that we do in the foundation, like in Africa, building farms and things like that, and
the Seeds of Freedom program.
Seeds of Freedom project. We talked about that last time, and even what we're trying to do in the Global Methodist Church. Like we could be independent churches, but we choose to be. We want to build this global Methodist church where there's this structure where Christianity can flourish and that can be a successful thing.
Yeah, like once again, to do something that like the Compostela, and you have to admit that God might call us to do bigger things once you've gone on a pilgrimage.
Yes,
you're going to need more than one church working together, which is humbling. It's not going to be just me. It's not going to be my great church. It's going to take a lot of churches.
Yeah.
You're going to need a bigger boat.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the service, Terry. What are some memories that you had from, like, we got there and we went to the worship at the Compostela. What stood out to you in that you could tell the folks about?
What I found most interesting was all the different people walking the journey with us. Some of them were old, some of them were using walking sticks, and they were bent over almost in half, and yet they were just as determined to get to the cathedral.
Like Dr. Hoffman on the church.
Yeah. But they were just as, we were all going to the same place.
Yeah.
And some were really struggling to get there, but they were just as determined. And some days the weather wasn't pleasant. It rained a day and a half while we were doing this.
You have the rain, yeah.
But
I prefer the rain. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I'm going on record to say that everybody says, like, man, I can't wait for the sun to come out. But it was hot when the sun was out, and it was unbearable. I preferred a little bit of rain, just a nice sprinkle. You can hear it in the woods. I found it very peaceful. It was okay. It was cool. But I'm definitely.
I'm glad you like that.
I'm definitely pro rain on, a little bit of rain. So the rain's not bad. I just want to clarify for people that want to come. It's okay.
The rain can be cold, but we'll get back to that. But like you said, Terry, you have people of all different walks of life. Mm-hmm. A lot of people.
A lot of people.
Every different age of person. I saw little kids. Like, yes. I think I saw like a kid being pulled in a stroller. And people who were elderly, for sure.
Absolutely. And we saw a group of school kids on the last day, and they were carrying a giant cross, and they were walking. Yeah. And I think they started at that last town before we got to Santiago. But they, too, were on this pilgrimage, and I think it was a school class outing of some sort. But obviously they were probably preparing for that.
Yeah.
So I just felt connected to a lot of different people. And of course, we don't know their face. We didn't talk to them in that way, but we were connected to all these people, all doing the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and we have to consider, like, how we got there and how they got there.
Right.
But you see all that taking place, and that is one of the things that you're getting in touch with.
Mm-hmm.
You're coming from a far-off place, and so did everybody else.
Right.
As far as we know.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, obviously there's probably people there from Spain, but who knows where else?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's sort of the kind of same theme that really works on you. You see all of these people making these significant efforts. Mm-hmm. One for me was standing in line at the Compostela to get into the Mass, and the line being as far as you could see. Yes. Around the corner, in this huge
like 10
place.
blocks or something.
And we got in, and I was just like, man, I was glad to get in.
Yes, exactly.
And that, that's not an experience that I have here in the States.
No, and because I go on mission trips, around the world, I watch people work hard to get to church. I was in the Philippines earlier this year, and they're doing water crossings. And during the rainy season, it could take your life to do some of these water crossings, but they're going to do it to get to church. And then we have the convenience here in the United States of, we'll just watch it online because it's raining outside or something, And so I think we all need to do something like the El Camino, or even mission trips or something along those lines, because it really puts things in perspective about what a blessing it is to be able to go to church, and it's air conditioned and it's heated, and we have comfortable seats to sit on and all kinds of things. I've been in churches where they literally had bricks and a log across the bricks, and that's what you sat on in Zambia.
Yep, been there.
Yeah,
for
and
sure.
no roof.
And it gets your mind straight and your heart straight in a strange kind of way.
Right, exactly. And they come miles and miles and miles on foot because they want to worship God.
Yeah, so that's what you were seeing here, is people making journeys. We did the week-long journey.
Right.
Some people will take 3 months and walk the whole trail. So the Camino is sort of like the Appalachian Trail in my mind. That there's just this big long trail, but to get your official pilgrim papers. And one of the things I would tell the counselors at CCA is it's like a training experience. That's what a formative experience is all about in your spirituality, is that God has these designs that will train you, that will disciple you. And, there's plenty of things that a CCA counselor or any Christian counselor would want to do. You get a certificate of training, like you took this course. This is a legitimate certificate to get.
Right.
I know that once you go through this, you will learn something, that God will show you something and write that on your heart. That's what's happened for me. And it's that saying, you have to be there. These kinds of experiences that you just described are life-changing, and you remember them for the rest of your life. So I was joking about the fact that I forgot everything. It comes right back.
Remembers now.
I remember now. And we're in year 2 of this. We plan to do this every year. And it's one of the things at CCA that we want to set apart for people who are in the counseling process in whatever way. So there's 4 different groups that we can say, come along on this. And we just want people to think about this, right at the beginning of our talk here, that first, the client of CCA, the person who has trusted us to face their challenges here through our counseling, they'll go from individual counseling to group counseling, which is a special type of group that we call the TAG group. And they learn how to just have transparency and accountability in their life, work with others, instead of just being on their own. And we prepare them for that. They can choose to do that. And they successfully complete that process by getting into a life group in a church.
Right.
For people who've done that, they are welcome. Because a lot of times people don't want to leave counseling because they're like, I really love the people I have alongside of me here. You can continue to come back on these retreats, these pilgrimages. You could go to Spain with us and have a higher level of intervention in your life. These are things that will change the way that you face your challenges.
Right.
So people who've successfully completed CCA counseling in that way, can come on the Camino. Of course, we have CCA counselors there.
Yes.
So every one of our staff, we encourage you to come along, and foundation supporters, the donors at the foundation. We hope someday to really be able to, for ministry leaders who need respite, they need to get out of the box of modern Christianity in the U.S. and really understand the roots of all of what God has done, that we could subsidize that. The cost of a trip like this, there is a cost, but the foundation donors will someday, I believe, be instrumental in that. Some pastors are able to do that through their church support, but other pastors of small family churches can't do that.
Yeah.
So we would help to give them a retreat or respite, to do that, and inspire them to come back and lead their congregations through that. So Foundation for Christian Counseling donors who come to our events, who are donate in any way, you can come along on this event. And then anybody who's connected to those groups, so you can bring a friend along.
Right.
And so this time we had I had somebody who's in my small group at Charter Oak. His name's Matt. He came last time, but this time he brought his whole family along.
Right.
And, his kids, his wife, And that's what he did.
Well, and I brought my friend Sue, and I knew that she too would really benefit from that.
Yeah. So that was really great.
It was awesome.
So this has just a wide range, but we provide an experience there. So we have a devotional in the morning. We'll spend all day on the trail together. Have dinner at night. So you have a team of people who you can go on this with. You're not alone. It's headed off to Spain.
Right.
And that's navigating the airports and everything too, and the trains, which was quite a journey. So. So that's what it's about. But more reflections. I guess was there a challenging part for you that you had on this trip that you'd want to tell people about?
Go. You can go first. I know what mine is.
I think I was probably fine. I mean, I think that. I didn't find it too challenging, but I was a younger person on the trip, so I was not. You definitely, do get sore from like walking 17 miles, but it's really not that bad. As long as you kind of just
you have all day to do it.
Yeah, you have all day. It's just walking.
There's just one 17-mile day.
Yeah, it sounds intimidating, but it really. I think that like the challenging part is to not focus kind of on that. Task of like crushing the trail, and taking that time to reflect, because it is, I think like somebody shared with you on the trip, it has become more secularized than it once was. So
people just do it for a physical challenge.
Yeah. So to make sure to focus on that stuff would be, I guess, my challenge of the trip
is to remain in a spiritual focus.
Spiritual focus.
Yeah, because the physical challenge for you would be to maybe run it.
Well, I don't think I can do that either. Maybe like 10 years ago, but not now. But,
we had some younger people, teenagers and people in their 20s. You're in your late 20s, but they were not having any kind of problem at all.
No. And even though two of them had the stomach flu, they still pushed through.
Yeah. We had two people who were sick and like literally throwing up at the devotions in the morning, and then just walked it.
Right.
Faster than I could.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So that's one of the sad things in my life. But
the challenge. Yes.
Well, and I was the oldest one on the trip.
Really? Okay.
I mean, I turned 62 on the trip. So, so I was, and I got hurt last year and broke my pelvis in 3 places. So if I can do this, I think anybody can.
Yeah, and to be fair, we really wouldn't see Terry as 62 or normal in that regard.
Terry's tough.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, if people are thinking I'm too old to be doing this, honestly, you're really not.
Yeah.
You can do it at a variety of ages. You might not do it as quickly. And Sue and I both decided we were going to do it at our pace, whatever that was.
Yeah.
And that was fine. And we got done every day, and it wasn't a problem. But it is possible to do that. And, we did see people who were really bent over and things like that still doing it.
Yeah.
I was recovering from an injury, and I still did it, and it is doable for most people.
Yeah.
They may have to train some, but it's doable.
Yeah, and my training is riding the desk every day for about 10 hours at CCA, and so under my training regimen, it was tough. So physically challenging for me, especially the first day, just like getting into. And it was I think it was a short day the first day, but
No, it was not. It was like 14 miles the first day.
Yeah, it was long.
Yeah.
The second day was the short day.
Yeah.
But I think you used that day to recover.
Yep. Yeah, I was on a recovery day the second day, just walking slow. And you always have that option. I'm a slow walker, getting better, but I was able to walk slow when I wanted to. And sometimes I was a little bit separated from the group who was moving more quickly than me. And I'd talk to other people along the way. And, that was fun too. I probably ended up walking like 3 or 4 miles with this person from England who was just telling me all about whatever. Super interesting. just meeting people and hearing about their journeys. So that would be my toughest part, though. I'd have to admit, my feet began to hurt.
Oh yeah.
And I'm very wimpy when it comes to to my feet.
Well,
I have to be honest and very careful. I have accountability here. But
but like Alex said, yes, your feet are going to be sore. Your legs are going to be sore.
yeah,
But again, anything worth doing is worth pushing through.
Yeah.
right.
And we can do more than we think we can,
Absolutely.
Yeah. There's a resilience factor there.
which we need in our Christian walk.
Yeah.
Because I always say every test is a testimony.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's this traditional thing that is part of the pilgrimage. It's a journey. It's a long journey. You devote time to it. It's part of the sacrifice. So we do that for a week, but in how that's set up, I guarantee you're going to experience some kind of challenge. So, I think the other thing was when it rained. You didn't mind the rain.
I didn't mind the rain. I thought the rain was good.
There was a day where I just I had to stop and I was all by myself because I was trailing behind, and I found this little cafe that had I don't know, it was like a baguette with an egg thing on it, and I got that, and it was warm. And they shut down just in the middle of the day. So, I think at 3 o'clock, they're we're closing
Siesta.
at 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was able to get this hot egg sandwich, and I had a change of dry clothes in my bag. And so I went in the bathroom, got changed, sat down and ate. And that was a little oasis in that walking mile after mile in this rain that was just bothering me. So you have those moments where you go from struggling a little bit to feeling like you're really blessed, and thinking about what all that means. And there's all these legends too that I think about, and I don't know if I want to, they're interesting to anybody, but Charlemagne, we talked about him. He was a Frankish king that spread Christianity in the Middle Ages. And he was one of the people, one of the focuses of these legends, that he was called to make pilgrimage to St. James. So walk hundreds of miles, risk your life in those days to do this. And you start to consider, this tradition of instead of being on a vacation or doing something easy, that God calls us to challenge ourselves for things. And part of that is physical.
Yes.
So all of that, it engages all of you. So I think you definitely have that experience.
Yeah, and I think we're talking about Charlemagne and just at that, back in medieval times, the risks were greater. If you didn't work, you had to work to survive. In our modern society, you don't really there's plenty of safety nets. You can you're not going to die if you don't work 10, 12 hours a day like you had to in the Middle Ages to make it. And for Charlemagne, doing something bold because of feeling God's prompting, really stepping out there and being I'm going on this trip where there wasn't the safe oases where you got to stay at on his trip. It was
you're battling,
probably fighting his way to this place, and with you could mess up and not have enough food and die, and and you could run into I don't know, a Viking or something who would be at odds with you, and he did that. So makes you think about okay, wow, man, I really gotta think about me having it easy in this modern society, when God's calling you, what's your response going to be to that? And that's what
I really didn't value that in the beginning, the history part of it, and I've begun to appreciate that. It's something different every time, and as God willing, I'll get to go on these retreats, over and over again. That's my plan. Learn a little bit more about the history and the legends which they're legends because we don't know if they're true or not. It's not the Bible. You don't have to say like this actually happened. But some are like very historical. So last time we went on the French Way from Sarria to Santiago, which is like east to west. This time we went south to north from Vigo. So Vigo is on the coast, and we walked along the coast. So that it was much warmer this time, I thought.
Yeah.
Than it was last time, because going east to west, you're like going through all kinds of like wilderness and stuff. So, but one of the things that we went past was, one of the 3 ships that came over with Christopher Columbus when they discovered America had to come back. And I don't want to say it. Those are the things I can't remember, because I was sharing this every day in the devotionals.
Christopher Columbus, the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria.
Yes, I think it was the Pinta that came back.
Pinta came back. Okay.
Historians correct me. And one of the things Alex used to do for us is get the history when we were talking. But the ship came back in one of the places where we walked.
Okay.
So you walked past that, a place where it was announced that they had found a new world, and how that changed everything. And you just have time to think about, like, wow, what was that like? And it changes my perspective on things. Just have time to appreciate that people were taking like big risks and doing big things. And I like that. It sort of challenges me.
Yeah, it was like the work of the church also that like got you to that point of like sailing across, finding this whole section of the map that they're like isn't even there on their map at the time, and the church like took risks to do that, and like sitting in my house and like in my air conditioned office, it's not something that crosses my mind. Like people had to do all of these things, to create the world that we're in today.
Yeah, things we take for granted.
Yeah,
like we wouldn't be in our air-conditioned houses in America.
Yeah,
if somebody didn't like take that big risk to sail across the sea into the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's hard to contemplate what is the unknown today. Who knows?
Mars.
Mars.
Kidding.
I think it's, for me, it's like trying not to look at my phone for 30 minutes.
Christian Counseling Associates is ready to serve you, providing a wide range of counseling services. Christian counseling is accessible to everyone. We serve both Christians who want their faith integrated into the counseling process, or those holding any beliefs or attitudes toward spirituality. With many years of counseling experience, our counselors are professional, licensed, highly trained, and rooted in their commitment to their church and communities. CCA is able to provide a full range of clinical counseling services. For more information, visit our website at www.ccawpa.com.
So we have these pictures here, Terry, that you took. Do you want to take a look at these and
Sure.
and tell us about them? So
That was our group starting. Pretty cool.
First day.
Yeah. I just remember doing the devotion and can't remember which one it was. Was it Zach or the other one who was vomiting in the bushes? And he kept saying, "I'll be fine. I'll be fine." I'll be fine.
That was pretty gross.
Yeah, that was.
I kept handing him wipes to wipe his mouth. Yeah. I didn't know what else to do.
Yeah. So we had some young family members, come along of Matt. There's Matt.
Yeah.
And that was his second time through, but they made it.
They did.
Yeah.
That was the first day.
Mm-hmm. This was trying to find the start. Remember, we had kind of a walk to get to the start of the El Camino in Vigo.
Lost.
Yeah, it trails through towns and cities, and you get used to this kind of European architecture. I think a lot of these cities are the same. There's a lot of stone.
Yes.
Well, yeah, that's because stone in Europe was more readily available. So that's how
And
they
wood.
Yeah, and that's why.
Or steel.
Well, I
You know,
guess
you'd
they wouldn't
see-
have had steel back then, I don't think. But in America, we landed and we were like, we had to build fast, and wood was
don't-
available.
You know, you see like on the side there's still stone, at least like stone fascia on those buildings.
Right.
That would cost like $1 gazillion here. You just wouldn't see that as much as you did, but the pavement is stone. Sometimes it's cobblestone. And the route that we took this time was less populated than the French way, which is the main route. So, yeah, we were trying to find our way that day. Like a little adventure.
It was.
And you get a chance to lead. And so somebody was out in front saying this way, and we were asking people. That was fun.
Yeah.
That was day one.
Oh, that was Sue and I. That sign, God really put on my heart. And I made a copy of one without anybody in it. And I have it in my home office and my office in Steubenville. And he put on my heart as we were walking that if, as we followed that, we were always looking for those signs. That would tell us which way to go. And we never saw a sign that pointed us in one direction and thought, maybe I should go the other way. We just didn't do that, or we would have been lost in Spain. But how often do we do that with God? And he put it on my heart that if I followed him as closely as we follow those signs, how would our lives be different?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's part of the pilgrimage.
Right, exactly.
And you have the seashell and the arrow.
Yes.
The significance of the seashell is something we teach on the pilgrimage, but part of it is you can see in the symbol that God is calling people from all different parts of the world in all different directions to come to him. And he's providing the way. So you see those little pillars, they tell you which way to walk everywhere you go.
Right.
And they're all over the place. So it is hard to get lost. You can get lost. But
It can happen.
follow God and the markers that he lays for you. So where was this?
This was this was the second day, I think. Yeah, wasn't this the second day? I'm pretty
I
sure
think it
we
was
were
the
headed to
second day.
Pontevedra. And because remember we started out and we had those hills to climb,
Yeah.
and
yeah.
it was a little uneven. So this looked like the second day.
Yeah. And we
Yes.
almost got lost then. So, yeah.
They kept on talking about viaducts that were that were built by the Romans, and
Yeah.
I couldn't tell if those, some of those, because you had days where it would rain and the water would cascade down off the hills. So you had
Yeah.
flat parts, but you definitely had lots of ups and downs.
Right.
And that water was coming in through these ducts, and some of them looked like they were ancient.
Oh,
So some of the research, every time we go back, I'm trying to figure out, was that, so I could point it out next time. But that was definitely, one of the key points was, some of these paths have been walked on for 1,000 years, and you have to admire that. But we're going uphill here,
Yes, we were.
and that's me. I'm all wet here. It had been raining.
Yeah, that's another one. I think it was the second day as well. And we were trying to beat the rain that day. Remember, we were.
Yeah. I was against it.
I know you were, but we were. The other thing too, I'm kind of philosophical sometimes. Is I think about what everybody's carrying a pack, but what is everybody emotionally carrying on this trip,
It's true, too. Yeah.
and what were they sorting through?
Yeah. Well, that's one of the, as we develop this retreat and we get people who are coming with different things, that's what I'd want to do, is to have more time to process that, and have some more structure. Our basic structure was in the beginning of the day we had some time,
Right.
and then we had dinner. We could probably, put just one more thing in there, and to do some reflection, because, there's things that are going on for people as they walk through this.
Right. Right.
Like your mind and your heart is engaged because you're thinking about all of this history and all the people who came before, and you're thinking about your future and where God is calling you as you walk down His path.
Exactly.
You have time to do it. And again, I'm always focused just on the different kinds of things you walk through. So that sometimes it would be like you were in a jungle. It rains there a lot because, of course, Spain is covered, on all sides, almost 3 of the sides by water. It's a peninsula, right?
Yeah.
And so you're just surrounded by water. It rains a lot, and so it's very green and things are growing there. But at other times, it's it's like you're around here in Western Pennsylvania or Ohio.
Oh, that's when we got to Pontevedra, or however you say that. Yeah.
Pontevedra.
Yeah. That was the day you walked slower. And
I was not there in that picture.
you were in your recovery walk.
That was the short walk day.
Yeah, that was about a little over 7 miles, I think.
Yeah, everybody looks really relaxed. Mm-hmm. That's cool.
Yeah, it was good.
That was a good day.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you have like every day's a different day. You get to see different things. Oh, yes.
In the pool.
So they have these natural springs. Talk about this, Terry. What is this?
Well, you both needed to definitely soak your feet. I think you even went and bought him shoes, didn't you? Flip-flops or something?
We had a shoe buying process.
So, but we all stuck our feet in there trying to get them to just like loosen up, maybe take care of some blisters. But I think that we did this before we went to dinner. We just sat and soaked.
Yeah.
It was nice.
This was my favorite stop, and I can't remember the name of the town, but the hotel was the best there. And it had the natural hot springs.
Natural hot springs.
Yeah. It was, I can tell you what it was. It was.
We have it documented here.
We do. Caldas de Rice.
Caldas de Rice.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's something. Terry, you published a book on your experience.
She's an author.
I kept.
This
well,
is a New York Times
it's just
bestseller.
nice to know. It's just nice to be able to go through it and say, where were you? Well, I know where I was now. I just saved the itinerary so I could fill
That's
it
nice.
in.
That's awesome. Yeah. I've seen those books before, but they help you remember.
They
for
do.
Sure.
Yeah, but the springs are naturally hot. Like they're like, it's like a hot tub, but they don't have to heat it. I thought that was
right.
That was cool.
Yeah. So the legend behind this is that you have these places where there was a duck that was coming down from a natural spring, and they would collect that, and then it was a place of stone where everybody was putting their feet in, and that people have been doing that ever since this pilgrimage has existed, is soaking their feet. They believe that there's natural healing qualities, and that beyond that, it's symbolic of God bringing relief to you and blessing. And that, along the path of discipleship, even though there may be challenges and they can be severe, because if we take it from an ancient sense, people would live and die on the Camino. That there's times of joy and blessing within that. And that is God providing.
Right.
And we can trust Him for that. And so we had a moment of peace before dinner, and my feet felt significantly better. There was healing that oftentimes we just discount. But on that day, I was smiling in that picture because I was being blessed, and that was my favorite memory. All right, so. Here it's really raining.
That was the next day, yeah. That was the really rainy day that made Alex very happy.
Yeah, it was definitely good.
It made everyone else sad, but it made Alex very happy. So,
Were you really happy that day?
I mean, I don't know. It was always this thing about like beating the rain. And my thing is like, if it's sunny, it's really humid and you're like sweating, getting sunburned. I preferred walking 17 miles in a cool drizzle than I did 90-degree heat. But that's just me. I don't,
You can give me the heat
to
any
each
day.
to each their own.
Man.
But
I would much prefer the heat because when we showed up at the hotel, Sue and I did that day. We must have looked like drowned rats because the innkeeper grabbed us and said, "I'm going to show you where we're going to hang your coats and put your shoes." I think he was afraid of us messing up his inn because we were a mess. We were covered in mud. It was fun.
Yeah, I take 2 pairs of shoes because if you get one really wet, you always have the other one, and you're trying to keep them both dry. And so this day, the way I remember it is we went. This was the next day, like from Call to Day race, and we had a mix up in the hotel, so there was like not a room, and Alex and I were going to go and stay somewhere else, and then we just sort of did like a switcheroo.
Right.
And I ended up like in this room that overlooked the city, and it had this like panoramic view, and you can tell the rain was coming in, and it was getting cold. And I was like, I do not want to leave this room ever. And it was just one of those things. If you were feeling good about that, I was like, oh man.
Yeah.
And we were talking about how it was going to be 2 days of rain, and that like it totally like
and
changed
the fear
my
that
mood.
ensued about incoming rain. I mean,
yeah. And so you have your gear, you have your poncho. You're trying not to get your backpack wet because if you have stuff in there,
Right.
And the first time I went, I didn't do any of this. Like I really didn't use my poncho. I got like completely wet, and then and my shoes got wet, and I got blisters all over my feet. So you learn,
Right.
You learn not to do things from experience, hopefully, and still though, that's part of the experience.
Well, but our Christian walk is hard sometimes too, and sometimes it's uncomfortable.
Yeah, so let's talk about that a little bit. This is like a simulation because at any point you could call an Uber and go home. You know what I mean? Like,
I never knew that was an option, but okay.
No, like personally, like I would want to die before I would
Yes,
let that
absolutely.
happen because I'm gonna make it.
Yes.
There's pride there. I'd have to be honest, and would not want to see like how people see that. However, you're not stuck there, but there is something symbolic about the pain that you feel on days like this, whether it's emotional or physical or or both, really.
Right. Exactly.
We talk about this a lot in counseling. That the industry, like I've never seen, and I just have to think about. I remember being in college, and I was a psychology major, so undergrad. In the early '90s, there was an article about Prozac coming out, and there was a debate about like what this was going to be. And I remember a time before Prozac, which was there really wasn't anything,
Right.
and what things were like till what it has become now. And we have definable moments where people who are facing challenge, the main goal is, I just want the pain to go away.
Right.
Think about a time where you did not have that option. And you had to deal with the pain and what would come out of that. And that's the contemplation, for me, and it's part of your counseling. And so on pilgrimage, I see it like an intervention, that you can have, that you learn these things, because God works through pain.
Right.
And in God's goodness, He's not, responsible for the pain. We are. In the grand scheme of things, theologically, we chose, to bring this about. We didn't have to, and so now we deal with the problem of sin in our lives, and that things are inherently off track. You're going to have pain, and theoretically, there's nothing you can do to permanently remove that. So it's going to return. We'll struggle with that. But one of the traditional teachings is that when we're going through things, we have the opportunity to become dependent upon God,
Right.
instead of something else. And you're contemplating that. Is what does it mean to give this over to the Lord and let Him work through that? And that came in the rain, or any time where you're sort of like, oh, I sort of think about it as the story of Jonah, where he's crying about the plant that wilted while all these people are going to be destroyed, down below. I think these are small things, manageable things, like things that you can work with, when sometimes in the struggle of life they're overwhelming and they're just massive, and so this gives you a place where this can be worked out. In a way, it's not life and death, or some of the challenges that people bring to CCA. It would be great to put it in a place of devotion where you could work through these things, instead of what we have here sometimes that we feel it's impossible. So you go through things, and that's one of the things I would lift up. It's okay, sometimes to face the pain.
Well, that's how we grow. If you think about it, if you go to the gym, the next day you're sore because you use muscles you haven't used.
Yeah.
But that's how you get stronger. Yeah. I always say, I bike. I love going downhill, but I get stronger when I'm climbing hills. Mm-hmm. And that's with life. And I think in our culture, especially, most people are uncomfortable being uncomfortable. Yeah. And our society says you shouldn't be uncomfortable, but that is how we grow.
Yeah. Yeah, and so getting back to the mainstream of what treatment is today, as it's medicalized, a lot of it is focused on symptom reduction. Mm-hmm. And we see people become lifetime customers of the psychological industry or the psychiatric industry by being told that we should be able to reduce things down to zero and keep it there. The truth is that you're always going to have some type of anxiety and depression in your life, emotional challenge that you have to deal with. And you can't take that completely away.
No.
In what you have before Prozac and what you still have with, I believe an alternative to that is that when you're in these challenges in life, emotional challenges, psychological, we refer to it as heart challenges, that it's an opportunity to see more deeply into things that you need to deal with in your life. Mm-hmm. And in that, you can give that over to God.
Right.
And ask the question, Lord, what do you require of me? How do I need to deal with this? How do I need to follow you in this?
Right.
And you do that with other people, counselors. So, this fits right into, the counseling that happens at CCA. This would be an intervention, and I believe that that's pilgrimage as a traditional thing that God does with us. He calls us to go on journeys where there'll be challenges.
Right.
And sometimes your counseling at CCA is a journey where you're going through challenges.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think you're talking about, you have the story of Jonah in there, and something I always found interesting about that story is that he doesn't. Jonah, he goes through that whole trial with the whale and everything, but he can't. He doesn't want to change. He doesn't want to deal, and he's upset with the plant. And that's kind of the he's still a part of that thing that God does with the people in Nineveh, but it kind of cuts to. It's kind of the story just ends with Jonah. We don't really know what happens, and I just always found that interesting because he the story kind of leaves off with him of he's not willing to kind of grow or kind of deal with his how he's being, and also think about, I don't know what that verse is, but we always talked about it at about in preparation. There's that time, and I think it's Jeremiah where he's talking about if you're not able to keep up with the foot soldiers. You're never going to be able to run with the horses, and that always like stuck with me, like because we would talk about it like in college, and it's about like like things are going to happen, like if you live for like 80 years, like things are going to happen to you, like and it's coming, and in counseling we want to walk alongside with people and deal with that, because bigger things are going to happen, and if we can't grow and continue to deal with relationships and your family and all these complications of life, like it gets mentally bad. So things can get worse.
Mm-hmm.
So in a way, Jonah went on a pilgrimage with God, and I think of all the people who are called to go on journeys, and that starts with Abraham.
Mm-hmm.
He's called to leave his home, but you have the Exodus, you have the walk to Emmaus, and definitely with Jonah, he's called to take a journey to Nineveh.
Right.
And like you're saying, the curtain sort of falls on Jonah. Like, the story just goes dark at the end. And this might not be geographically correct, but I imagine that he's standing on this mountainside that overlooks Nineveh, and God is pointing to the Ninevites and saying, you're sad about this plant. But what about all these people down here?
Right.
I'm calling you to care about them. And the plant, to me, he was grieving over the comfort that he had in avoiding all of this, that he would have to give up if he was going to go down there and do what God was calling him to do. And you end the story with, what's it going to be? Is he going to give himself over to the Lord and become unstuck, or is he going to stay stuck in this seeking his own comfort and avoiding this challenge? And to me, it's very real. That's God's people. Can I follow God into this or not? Or is there any way out of it that I could take? Maybe, and Jonah, it's a very miraculous story. This weird plant comes out of nowhere, and then it's blown away. And before that, you have this fish, whatever it is it a whale or whatever? And people try to discount it, like, man, that didn't really happen. Like 3 days in the belly of this fish. Jesus talks about Jonah. And so, Jesus refers to the truth of Jonah, believes it, and we need to believe it too. Mm-hmm. That there's sometimes these miraculous circumstances, but I would say that's the miraculous circumstance in all of our lives. Whether we're going to stay stuck in seeking after our own comfort, or whether we're going to sacrifice that and go with God.
Right.
Yeah.
And very pilgrimage-like.
Yeah. You could think about, like, if Jonah had somebody else there, maybe that was something he wasn't aware of, and God's trying to, prompting him, and that's part of like what goes on in counseling, what goes on in the community. It's like allowing other people to see into your life and sharing with people, and being able to see those things that you're not aware of.
Yeah. So, folks, think about these kinds of biblical truths, that could become metaphors in our lives. When you have a problem, are you going to come to counseling? Are you going to open up about that? Because God calls us to share these burdens and be transparent. Mm-hmm. If you're in individual counseling for a long time and it's time to go to the next level and go to a tag group, and continue to get real about this, are you going to look to stay in the comfort of this routine with this one counselor that you have? Or, when it's time for you to be done with your counseling, can you move that into a real church setting where now it's not just about your help, but you're helping others in your building? you know, and you're right in the center of it. Yeah. Or are you coming on a pilgrimage with us, you know, and finding out more, you know, and you know, all of that, you know, are big moments in faith. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So yeah, let's get some
This
more of
one
your
looks
thoughts.
like, that's the one we took
Yeah.
at the airport.
Yeah.
We were still smiling.
Yeah, where was that?
That was at the airport before we took off to fly to Spain.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is on the way to Spain.
Yes.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, that's the one Mike took.
I bet you I could just do this.
Yeah.
Oh, and then that's our very first day again. We took off walking.
I remember that one. Yeah.
We
I was
looked
walking
so
down there.
energetic.
Nothing had happened yet.
Nope.
Just
Same picture?
some action
Uh-huh.
shots there.
Ooh.
That's the second day. Remember climbing up that
Yeah.
hill?
Yeah. Climbing up those rocks.
That's you right there, Alex.
But you can see the path isn't that bad. It's not like
No,
it's not,
it
It's
isn't.
wide.
As long as
You
you step carefully,
Yeah.
because, you know, rocks are rocks, but it's definitely doable.
Yeah.
And I've hiked a lot of places, and I honestly would say any of this would be doable for anybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, they may have to slow down some. They may have to take a minute, take a break. But I think that first day, a couple of the hills were a little bit steep.
Oh my gosh, I was struggling.
I know. I walked alongside of you, just kept you going, but and that was okay.
You know, that's the other like big memory that I had was I was just like really struggling on the first day because I don't know why, but because it wasn't. I mean, it just was a circumstance, and so we were up on this like big hill, and you were there like just sort of talking to me, like, and it was really helpful, you know, and I thought we were almost done, and then we got onto this highway. Because we went to the wrong place.
Hotel.
Yeah, that's right.
We had the wrong hotel.
We had a hotel
Yeah.
switch.
So, you know, one of the greatest moments of these things are you're at the hotel at the end of the day and you're like, man, I'm gonna sit down. I'm gonna I always like lay down for a little bit and I'm gonna eat. It's gonna be great. And the people are there, oh, I'm sorry, that's another 1.5 miles down the road. And I was like, what? And it was like the longest mile. Like we walked across this long bridge, and I'm like, man, I don't even know if I can make it across this bridge. And then you and Sue were ahead of us, and I was walking
The
slow
advanced
again.
team.
So
Yeah.
they were way down, and it was like this highway, and you couldn't even see the end of it. I'm like, oh my gosh, did they make a mistake? Did they send us in the wrong direction? And then, like, it was just like cars whizzing by, and I was like, "We're never gonna get out of here."
But we did.
But it was
made it.
helpful,
We're here.
and that's, I experience this all the time. That when you're doing something with somebody, and you're on the goal together, like it's easier not to give up.
Right. Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
that's what you have in the church. You know, that's what we do at CCA. Like, I don't know some of the things professionally that we've done in the last 15 years that we would have gotten all this way. I mean, I'm telling you, we wouldn't have unless there was somebody right beside me doing what we're doing, you know?
Well, and that's one of the reasons why I think Ohio is exploding as much as it is, because I do so much to make sure our team members know I need them as a team. And they each bring something to that team, and that's important stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, Terry, you're talking about the mission. Just we have a lot of people come here, listen to this, and, you know, we're on a mission at CCA to, you know, bring Christian counseling to every community.
Absolutely.
All across Ohio, and once we get there, it's going to be all across Indiana, and we're just going to keep on going. And the people who come here help us do that. Yeah, but we're definitely doing that together, devoted to it.
Absolutely.
And like your team is you know, motivated. You know, so for counselors out there, like that's what you get. Like, you know, working with Terry and Alex and everybody who's like them. I've gotten to do great things in my career that I would not have done, you know, unless these people were by my side, because I would have gave up. You know what I mean? And that day, like I know, like that is like literally what's happening on the pilgrimage, like you're recognizing that.
Right.
Like, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like these Christians who are beside me are part of God's design for big things that are happening. Mm-hmm. You know, and you could take it for granted. Like, I'm just walking down this road that's 1.5 miles, but you're not. Like, because I'm like, in that moment, I was like, I want to give up and write that and just sit down here and say, I'm not going any further. Mm-hmm. But I would not do that. Like, with you there, I will not.
Well, but just as I was helping you that day, look at how you guys all came around me when I got hurt last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's just when the person's in need, you go to them and you carry them. That's what we're called to do.
Yeah.
And so,
and I want to tease Terry a little bit every time she talks about it, because, like, you know, Terry's very humble, but you're like a machine. Yeah.
Toughest person in CCA that might go to Terry. I think you were in the hospital bed, and you were like, man, this is gonna be bad. I was just like, Terry, you're gonna be back up in no time. Don't worry about it. And you were back like in 3 or 4 weeks. It was
I was back in a week.
Yeah, it was a week. It was inspiring. Like it was disaster. Like ICU. You know,
you were there too.
Yeah. I was in the hospital.
You guys were coming in for me. Yeah,
and we were like, man, this is bad. And you were like, I don't think I can do this. And we were just like, Terry, you got. If anybody has this, it was Terry. And listen, you made it back.
You know, just let me lift this up. You know, this is we really designed CCA as a Christian company. Mm-hmm. You know, we want to do this by God's design, and that's part of it. Is like we're together on stuff, and so we were on this retreat that we do once a year with the leadership, and you were riding a bike with Kent Rogers, who has also been on the Camino, and had an accident, severe. You broke your pelvis.
3 places.
In 3 places. You were knocked unconscious, taken by ambulance. Really serious accident. Mm-hmm. And we spent the night in the hospital. Like, you know, there was a couple of teams, and we were like, is Terry going to be okay? It was not a good night. Like, you know, we could tell that you were in severe pain, you know, but she had broken her pelvis, literally, you know, so, and like the next week you were like working, you know, doing the meetings. And I think, you know, like that, I just know, like, I would not want to do that, but I can understand, like, how we're on the road together. Mm-hmm. That's what happens.
Right.
You know, like the mission is important. You're devoted to the cause. Mm-hmm. And that is part of how God got us through 5 states at CCA. Mm-hmm. And people don't want to hear that. They want some kind of magical formula.
Right.
You know, something we are given some kind of break. Like, this is God's design. Like sometimes you face challenges, and you can't give up.
You can't. And, you know, when I first accepted the position, you know, that week my husband was diagnosed with cancer. And I remember calling you and saying, Rich, I don't know what this is looking like. And you said, we'll walk alongside you. So, you know, it started way back then. You guys were walking alongside me, and you have this last 7 years as he's been battling this beast. So it's gone back and forth. You guys were there for me when I needed it, but then I try to be there for whoever needs it from me. And I think if everybody thinks that way, CCA can be across all 50 states.
Yeah. And you know, when we face challenges, like, that's the psychology of it. You know, that is the Christian psychology, the like what God is putting in our minds and our hearts that changes everything. Mm-hmm. It's not that we're excused from the challenge. No. Like, nobody came down and like instantly healed you.
No.
Yeah, but there was healing in your mind and heart that allowed you to face that challenge. Mm-hmm. That was miraculous.
Yeah.
And, you know, Terry is, you know, legendary in that sense, as you faced some pretty significant challenges. And that is what we hope to instill in our counseling. You know, that we hope for God to give us that kind of healing in mind and heart. Mm-hmm. And we've experienced it.
Right.
And we've seen clients experience that. And that is set apart. You know, when you give that to God, and you do that through relationship, like we were doing that together.
Yes.
You know, I'm glad you were doing what you were doing and I was doing what I was doing that day. But,
right.
But who knows what will happen?
Exactly.
And that's how it started out for you here. We've had people who've had challenges in their life in the church and said, I'm done. I'm just going to go take care of this.
Right.
And, to me, you show like what it's like to answer the call, that God puts us on is we have to do both.
Yes, we do.
We have to take care of what's going on and continue the mission.
Right.
So, wow, that's great that you would think of that. This makes you think of those times.
Right.
It's a great thing that hopefully that's strengthened. Those are some of the things that get reinforced or that you learn on pilgrimage.
Absolutely.
And in some strange way, this picture reminds you of all of that. That's a great story, Terry. And anybody who's watching this who's a client of Terry, you need to know that about Terry. Like legitimate counselor with CCA and the heart of faith for sure. So nice work, Terry.
Thank you.
Yeah. And that's the uphill climb sometimes, huh?
It is. Sometimes that's the sign I was telling you about. I have that hanging in 2 offices to remind me. Am I following God completely?
Yeah.
Even when it's tough stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to be speaking at a women's conference in a couple weeks, and I'm going to be talking about that.
That's great.
So
That's nice. Yeah.
another rainy day.
More of the rain?
More of the rain.
I got one of these. This is like the covering of your backpack.
Yeah.
One of my missions is to have the correct gear. And this was one of. I thought you had one of these too, Terry, didn't you?
That was mine. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That is me.
Yeah, that's you. Okay.
Yeah.
So, you're like sealed in the in the gear, which is the best thing to do.
Yeah.
Like you don't want any drop of rain hitting you.
Well, like I said, I've hiked a lot of places around the world, and if you are not equipped, it's not fun.
Yeah. Now me, like I overheat, so that's one of the problems. If you're sealed within the gear, it's like a geodome in there. You're like soaked inside the gear. But Terry, that
again,
probably
you got to
wasn't-
have the right clothes on underneath, and you were wearing cotton most of the time.
Cotton kills.
Cotton kills. When you wear Lycra, it breathes, and I had all Lycra on, so that was the difference.
Lycra. Okay, I'm
Yes.
taking mental notes as I go along.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Well, there you go.
Well, there you go.
That's the end of the pictures.
That's the end of the pictures.
Well, it's the end of the ATO. Yeah.
what we had.
So,
But what we need for next, and I think we had this in the previous years. The end is the Compostela. So you walk through all this rain,
I
and
thought I threw a picture in of that, but I don't know. Did you know that one? Maybe not.
Maybe not.
and
We'll just Google it real quick.
one of the things I love this about Africa. And did you throw? We're gonna look for a Compostela picture.
You just want to Google it real quick?
Well, yeah, I don't know if you can see those.
No, we can't get that
Yeah.
on the camera.
Because I have plenty of those.
So there's Spain. I don't know if it'll let me click on that.
Yeah.
But there you go. There's some. It's giving you a slideshow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or do you want to just click on images there?
Gary, will you be able to give us the slideshow? The full screen? Yeah, so just imagine we're looking at a smaller picture. You're looking at a bigger one, but
Yes.
that's the inside. There's this thing that I love, like when you, on the final day, you get into town and the challenge is over. Although our hotel was like very far away from
It's
it.
another mile and a half. Yes, it was.
I want an electric bike next time that I can ride around on the last day. But that's just me. One of the 2 of my favorite things is the mass where there's this incense. What do they call that? It's like this big incense drum that they swing.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's just a really great part of that service, and just very memorable, touches your heart. But then there's Codex, the restaurant that we love to go to. So somehow we got separated. You guys were eating over here, and we went to Codex, and it's right at the beginning. So it's we get in there, and it has like what is it? The octopus?
Yep, octopus.
You have buttered octopus, which is like a staple food in Spain, and just like a really great restaurant. But you get to clean up and have like a great meal before you go home, and get to see all this stuff. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's symbolic at what's at the end of the challenge.
Right.
It's the end of the journey is that sometimes we have to go through the desert to get to the promised land. At the end of all of this, we will we'll face God. Jesus will be there, and we will be brought in to His kingdom and be with Him. And I think you experience that kind of blessing on the last day when you get the rest.
Well, and I think it's cool that we do them. The next day is the Mass, and then we go down and see St. James Bones, and then we go down and get our pilgrim certificates. It kind of like ties it all up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, so you get a certificate. I frame my certificates. It's part of my counseling credentials.
Yep, mine is hanging in my Steubenville office.
Nice.
Yes?
Absolutely. And, so, so Psalm 84 verses 5 through 7, but I'll just read part of this. Blessed are those whose strength is in you, whose hearts are set on pilgrimage. And there is a blessing when you agree to go on the journey that God has set before you, to take on the challenge.
Yes.
And, that is what I can truthfully say I experienced and what we experienced together. And that I hope, whoever, is listening today would take this into their heart and experience and reflect on, what God is calling them on. What is the journey that God calls you on, the challenge that He calls you to face, and think about the Compostela and the big things in history where God has done that time and time again. That even though it might be overwhelming sometimes, God is with us. If He calls us, He also will provide for us.
Amen.
And so, Terry, thanks for coming on the journey. I hope you'll come back. And Alex, you're coming back.
I'll be back.
And thanks for being here today on the podcast, Terry. It's traditional that, when we have you here for the first time, that we would just ask you to pray for all the folks out there who will listen to this. And so please send us a prayer.
Okay. Dear Heavenly Father, what a blessing. What a blessing it was to be on the pilgrimage. But Lord, what a blessing it is to be your child. And I pray over each and every one who's been listening to this podcast, who will listen to it, that they will seek out their own pilgrimage, that they will talk to God about that and be open, understanding that there is pain involved, but there is growth. And Lord, I pray that each person, as they are being tested, will be able to share their testimony and to really grow and see where God wants to lead them as a result of that pilgrimage. We pray over each and every one. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Alex. And thank you, folks, for listening today. We'll see you next time.